Hello everyone, today we're going to get started on this week's projects. These are going to cover a couple different use cases. So the first one we want to cover is the ability to search through our posts. So as you can probably tell, we have the search bar here now where if we type something, like let's say we search for officia with a period, if we type this in, it will then return a couple of results, including the one that has officia in it. The reason why these are being included is if I open one of these, we can hopefully see on this page right here that there is the exact same search term in the body as what we were searching for in the title. So in that case, we might want to search for a very specific post title to make sure that we're only getting that. Now that said, we could also search for like test, and we can get back our test post that we had initially when we first loaded the page, right? The order will be a little bit different, but that's just because of how I have the server set up right now for how I was testing things. So that's step one. The second thing we're going to do this week is we're going to check out demo 2 and run a Rails SN here. And now we'll go ahead and we'll refresh this one. So now you can see we have the searching ability, but we also have this pagination. So we have 2 posts per page just for testing purposes. So there's like 100-ish posts in the database. I can actually check if we go over to 51 and we click on one of these, we should be able to see, well, I mean, this is up to 173. So maybe that's not the best example. But you can at least see when I go back, I'm still on page 51. If I search for something, let's say like test, nothing will appear. Then we can click on page 1. That'll take us to page 1. Now, that's something you can change. I just like it when you search for something while you're on like that page for it to stay there, just in case you want to like go back to whatever you were previously searching for, you're still like on that page. That totally depends on how you want to do this. I'll show you how to customize that. That's just the behavior that I kind of like, because like when you have a single page application, it always feels like you're losing whatever you were previously doing when you like refresh or whatever. So here it feels a bit more natural to me, where I'm like, oh, I want to search for, you know, tests, and I do this. I'm like, actually, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's stay on this page. But that can be cleaned up if you wanted to. So this is this one's going to be a little bit more complicated to set up, mostly because we have the pagination, which isn't terribly difficult, but we also have to set up all of the searching to work with the pagination. Because of course, if we search for like whatever this is, Iram here, we might only get one result. But if I search for like TE, for example, that's going to give us 27 pages worth of results. And we now need to make sure that we're paginating these search results in addition to performing the searching. So this is where we have to tie in a couple of these ideas. So we're going to try and go through this by doing the searching first and then the pagination, but I'm just warning you now, because of how I built this, because I do this in my free time, largely don't know what I'm doing most days, we're going to have to do a pretty big refactor to what we're doing with the searching when we implement the pagination, because we have to clean up some of the code. We're going to try and go through from the perspective of the search branch first, and then we'll do the pagination one. So I'm going to do a git checkout demo 1 real quick. So I can open up this specific code base, in a code dot, and then we'll go to our usual workflow where we step through everything. Okay, never mind. Apparently VS Code is not working today. So I have my main one. We're just going to go from there. So we're going to come over here. We're going to create a new issue. We'll say, I don't know, like implement search feature or something. And there's like a whole bunch of stuff that would be associated with this in a usual application. I'm just going to go with a very basic branch today. Click create branch, copy, actually not copy this. I'm going to full screen this. Click create branch. Now do the copy, and we'll just do a checkout, but we'll do it in our actual application from here. Go ahead and fetch this. And then for our client, I'll do the same thing. I'll cd into video/client, and then we should be good to go here. And I'll run a npm run dev in this one, and we can run a Rails S in this one to see just where we're at right now. I'll come over here to localhost, whatever we're on, and we can hopefully see all of our posts here. So what we want to do to get started with this one is we're going to need to add the ability to search, which means we're going to need some kind of search controller, right? So we're going to need a Rails G controller. It's going to be a search controller, and we're going to have to give this, I guess, some kind of action. But we also want to be careful because we do need to remember this is going to be in like API, what is it, V1, and then the search. And then we want to give this a posts action, for example. So you can see that adds it to app controllers, API, V1 search controller, which is cool. It also makes our routes for us, which is nice. And then it creates the test file for us. So if we come over here to app controllers, API v1, and the search controller, we now have this posts action. So for this, we need to start by grabbing our @post just like we normally would, which we're going to do a post.where. We could also do some kind of like post.search and, use like an actual search tool for this. I think for now, we're going to start by just building this out from scratch. We can add in something like Elasticsearch later. But I think this is just a good place to start because this is always something where it's, I get a lot of questions about like how to build something out. And in a lot of cases, what you're looking for is something that's pretty simple, and it'd be like overkill to launch an entire other, Docker container just to be able to do some basic querying, right? So we're going to do a title like question mark or a body like question mark. Just as a note, if you're using a different DB, you might need to use I like instead of like. And I'd recommend just Googling what the difference is. In this application, I actually don't know what we're using. So I'm going to go ahead and come into config and our database.yaml. So it looks like we're using SQLite here. If you're using Postgres, I want to say, and maybe MySQL, I'm not sure, you're going to need to use I like. Just a little bit quirky changes. Another thing you can do is change this query based on like what environment you're in. Like if you're in development, you could use like, and if you're in production where you use Postgres, you could use I like. It really depends on what you do. But this is going to give us a title or a body like the user's query, which means we need to pass these in. So for the first one, we need to have a params with the Q. The percent symbols or the modulus operators, whatever you want to call them, just means that that's like your wild flags. So maybe your like query is equal to, I don't know, hello world. You're looking for all things that have hello world in them. And you have a post with a title that's equal to, I don't know, to hello world 4 or something. This would then grab this, it would return this post because it matches the hello world query, even though there's other stuff in front of it or behind it. If you only want to make sure that it ends with something, you just, make sure it ends with the query, and then the beginning can be whatever you want, or you could do the opposite. If like you're fine with the end of this having whatever you want on it, but you specifically want the beginning to match a query of hello, it wouldn't return this because now it's got 2 in front of it, right? Just trying to clarify that because that's another thing that's tripped a couple people up. And then we can render our JSON like we did before. The issue is if we come into our post controller, we can see we have to do this render post with images. So because we're going to be duplicating this, and I just really don't want to have to go through what I did while I was testing this, there's a couple other ways we could do this. What we're going to do for now is we're going to duplicate this code. In the future video when we do pagination, we'll refactor this and we'll pull it into an application controller thing. So just bear with me. For now, we're going to temporarily have some duplicated code. What we're going to do is we're going to grab our @posts. We're going to map them. We're then going to, take these mapped posts and make sure that each one has an image attached. If it doesn't, we just set the image URL to be null, just like we were doing before. And then we can come down to the bottom. We can just render that JSON for the post with images, which is virtually identical to what we're doing here. It's just a little bit different. And you can see here, this is where our logic changes because we order our posts with created at DESC. That's where the test data you were seeing was in a slightly different order. So here you could either order it by DESC, or you could set up some kind of weighting system where if they're like, relevant enough, they get a higher priority. So maybe like if the title is a closer match, it has a higher priority number, but that's something you're really going to have to implement yourself, right? And then once you have this, you should reasonably be able to go over to, let's say if I start my server with the Rails S, come over to localhost port 3000 /API/v1/search/posts, I think is what we called it. And then you can see right here, we return our posts, which in this case is all 4 of them. But if there is a parameter, so if we said, for example, I don't know, Q is equal to test, that'll still return these because all of them have test. I'm just now realizing. But we could do something like, let's actually just come over to here and create a new post. I'll say this is going to have hello as the title and world as the body, just so we have a different post to look at. We can search for all of these. We'll see there's only 4 here, but if we change this test to hello, this will now return just the hello world post. So this is sort of how we're going to structure this when we do our search bar, to where we only grab the posts that have either the title or the body. Like I could put world in here, which matches the body, and that would also work. And then from here, we're going to hit this endpoint instead of our post controller whenever we want to do our searching. But for now, I just wanted to cover this very basic bit because this is always the part where I get the most questions. I've covered searching like 10 times before on the channel, and every single time someone asks me how to do it like this. So we're gonna cover it from like the bare metal, and we'll build out our systems as we go. So this is where I'm going to leave you for now. In the next video, we're going to add the search bar, which means we're going to have to make the search component, and we're going to have to refactor our API URL from the client side to make sure this works right. But for now, let's go ahead and let's stop here.